A man bought enough onions to create shortage nationwide. Even after selling 9 million pounds of them at premium, he was still left with enough stale onions to lift 430 Sherman tanks. Cunningly, he short-positioned a large amount of corn futures contracts, and finally, flooded the market with so many onions that they were cheaper than last week's leftovers. He raked in nearly 97 million in today's dollars, whilst his fellow farmers wept in bankruptcy. Huh? Might as well ban trading? You got it very close. The wise man decided that the best solution would be to ban the trade of future onions. Yet the onion guy received no real penalty. Surely, this won't happen again, right? Back when people resorted to soot and salt to clean their teeth, a man had trouble maintaining his dental hygiene while imprisoned. Suddenly, an idea popped over his head. He salvaged a bone from his dinner, obtained bristles from a prison guard, and crafted something magnificent out of it. He then remembered a quote from "Steal a Piece of Garbage."
You could make a business out of this.
And thus, a modern toothbrush was born, leading him to untold riches. Huh? Might as well default teeth? Fair enough, even turtles and birds have shed theirs, although not because of dental problems. Fortunately, we were smart enough to invent and mass-produce toothbrushes. Whoops. Talented makeup artists used herbs to paint horrific wounds on their bodies. They even went half naked and inserted soap in their mouths to fake foaming. Once ready, they would perform expertly choreographed acts of convulsions that captivated passerby. Then in the end, they'd reveal the act and the enthralled bystanders would appreciate them with money. Just kidding. They exploited the sympathetic passerby and made a fortune from this scam. What? No comment from you? Good. Although the falling sickness scam, which occurred from around 1566 and who knows when, is no longer popular, it seems that emotional appeal is still the go-to strategy among scammers. Had to admit, yesterday's scammers were far more dedicated than today's. A girl was cursed with demons by a witch shortly after her birth, leading to her erratic behaviors, occasional demonic attacks, and numerous sensory issues. Since the once popular method of beating your stubborn children wasn't effective, her parents brought her to the nearest priest, who then performed several exorcisms throughout her life, draining her mental and emotional state. To avoid this, whenever she sensed an imminent attack, she would sneak off to the bathroom, evading the watchful eyes of her parents. And as she grew up, she began to question her parents' demon hypothesis and the Christian doctrines, which unfortunately resulted in her eviction at the age of 13. But thank God she met supportive mentors. In the end, her temporal lobe epilepsy was properly treated. The battle against artificial demons and witches are no more. The zebra tainted with dye as a form of identification. Supposedly, this has been successful in mitigating sheep robbery by the asset relocators. Huh? Might as well eliminate the fences? Why are you siding with the thieves? I see. It tries to undo wrenching. No wrenches, no sheep theft, no more colorful sheep. Clearly, that defeats the purpose of having livestock. Another solution would be to implant a GPS tracker on each sheep, but that would be too costly. In the end, color coding the sheep is still the most practical solution. To transform this water-insoluble blue pigment into a dye, Europeans discovered that urine is the perfect medium. By mixing it with a coloring agent and soaking the wool or cotton, they can finally wear the divine hue of the sky. You think color vision should be undone due to this gross insanity? The ancient generations will beg to differ. To various cultures, pee was invaluable for hide tanning, clothes washing, and pigment extraction. Fortunately, saviors appeared among us, bestowing the gift of synthetic dye and the miraculous technology of synthetic ammonia. From that day forth, men and women were delivered from the chains of their unholy piss. Since its earliest records, epilepsy has been linked to the most fantastical of causes. Ancient Mesopotamians thought the moon god Sin was behind those pesky seizures. Jump to early Babylonia and you'd find that evil spirits were the real culprits. Depending on your symptoms, you could be affected by a demon on your roof, or by a ghost if you have nocturnal epilepsy. And it's time to visit your medical exorcist, also known as Ashibu. Meanwhile, in ancient Greece, many believed that people got epilepsy by offending the moon goddess Selene, but others attributed epilepsy to the other gods. For example, seizures with a horse-like cry were attributed to Poseidon. Seizures with drooling and kicking were caused by Ares, while seizures that resulted in a bowel movement and tiny bird-like stool were attributed to Apollo. Going to ancient Rome and things got weird. If you were having a seizure, you'd be subjected to a shower of saliva from the masses. It was the Romans' ultimate technique against demons who they thought were responsible for spreading epilepsy. Huh? You think we should develop our complex brain to prevent epilepsy? Amusing proposal. But animals with less complex brains, like dogs, gerbils, or even flies, can have epilepsy as well. It's more of a genetic hiccup than a byproduct of having a better brain. Fortunately, geniuses and lucky individuals existed. They figured out some stuff about epilepsy and they discovered the medications that prevent seizures. But despite these advancements, there still exist folks who associate epilepsy with divine punishment and supernatural causes. Very unfortunately. The four intricate suits that we know and love: swords, clubs, cups, and coins. At least that could have been the case if the symbols hadn't been oversimplified. At first, the cards were hand-painted, making them rare and expensive, so only aristocrats could get their hands on them. But then, in the early 1400s, Germans invented woodblock printing. It gave rise to the mass production of playing cards, making them affordable to everyone. Interestingly, the Chinese had been rocking this tech at least 9 freaking centuries earlier. The good old days of pre-globalization, when Earth's atmosphere was still thick with ignorance. Anyhow, in the late 1400s, the French finally rediscovered the stencil method and used it to print playing cards. The stencils are making a comeback. Sir, surely you don't expect us to stencil these intricate symbols?
No, of course not. This video must be void of time paradox.
This video?
Ignore that. Feel free to simplify the suits to whatever suits you.
Thus, at the expense of craftsmanship, the once elite world of playing cards were open to all. Now your average peasant can cheaply purchase and afford gambling.
Aw, dang it.
Sunday is the day of the sun, Monday is of the moon, and Saturday is of Saturn. But what about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday? Well, they're the days of the Germanic gods. After all, the English language has Germanic roots, specifically from the Anglo-Saxon tribes. But why did Germans associate weekday names with gods? because the Romans did it first, and somewhere between the 2nd and 7th centuries, the Germans switched those Roman days to their own deities. So Mars Day became Tuesday, you know, the Norse god Tyr. Mercury's Day became Woden's Day. You might know him as Odin. Jupiter's Day became Funor's Day, aka Thor. And finally, Venus Day became Freya's Day. You may know her as Freya. I'm genuinely surprised that despite their pagan origin, Christian English folk didn't change the weekday names back then.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
In a desolate place, where only the cold wind you feel, a man found himself stripped of all his tools by his family. Still, refusing to live his traditional nomadic lifestyle, he managed to craft a knife out of thin air from a fresh-smelling substance. He then sacrificed a dog to make a sled and left his family for good. You think metal's overrated anyway? I see. It wants to undo humanity's progress back to the Stone Age. Ignore this uninvited guest. But my dear viewer, as you can probably guess, knives made of shit quite literally are shitty. Ooh, take a look at this fun fact. So, this whole GPS thing was meant to be a secret military toy. But then a Korean Airlines flight took a wrong turn, ended up in Soviet airspace and was tragically shot down. So President Reagan decided to give everyone the GPS to fix airplane's sense of direction, among other benefits. Huh? You think the prevention of future sufferings through GPS justifies the suffering of a few on that airplane? That's not quite right. It's not cool to diminish someone's unfortunate experience for the sake of a silver lining or a shiny new tech. But we don't have to dive into this philosophy rabbit hole since, as it turns out, the GPS technology has always been intended for civilian use as well, even without the tragic backstory. You silly little game devs, right there? I trusted you. Now my work as a part-time one-man information spewers is much harder. As is often the case with powerful rulers, their passing would generate sibling rivalry. Naturally, when a king named Valhalla retired, his two kids, Apolakaya and Mayari, argued over the throne. Their squabble then turned into a physical battle, using their divine weaponry to wooden club. These two sources of light clash in a godly duel.
Let us cease fighting.
Feeling pity for her sister's new skin, Apalakai suggested they share their father's domain, taking turns to rule the world. 12 hours for Apalakai and another 12 hours for Mayari, who now shines less brightly due to her partial blindness. Moral of the story, sibling rivalry is good for advancement. Thanks to their quarrel, we can have astronavigation, the golden hour, nocturnal creatures, and more.